Attention Pioneer. The following instructional video is a summary of your impending duties as an exoplanetary pioneer for FIXIT Incorporated. FIXIT pioneers have 3 cyclical assigned pillars of work to ultimately accomplish project assembly. Use provided blueprints to build the necessary buildings. Chart the planet and gather resources to provide desired results and improve your infrastructure. Make sure to report any unusual discoveries to R&D for analysis. Expand your factories, outposts, and pipelines through automation and augmentation. That's it. Get to work and be effective. Warning, planetfall imminent. Please remain seated during full procedure. Atmospheric entry in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Planetfall procedure initialized. Planetfall complete. Please ensure the integrity of your multi-purpose exploration suit is at 100%. Remember, efficiency first. Godspeed.
This is THECorranHorn, reporting in for FIXIT duty, care of the New Jedi Order and Rogue Squadron, of which I'm known as a Jedi Knight in Rogue 9. Today, we are going to be displaying to you, Whistler and I will, my first ever Satisfactory project, which was a tower that I decided to take on due to the challenge of having fun as well as enjoying some verticality and the challenge of building compact production lines. So, let's get started. Let me set my good old trusty pack mode here. So for those of you who have never played Satisfactory, this is a view of the Rocky Desert in the northeast corner of the map. And we will be going over to where my tower is. This is Satisfactory in an untouched landscape. Here we are going over to grassy fields in the southeast corner. And as stated, today I'm going to show you about how I turned this into this. On the left side there, I have my first ever train station that I put down on, and then just to the right of that, there is a view of my small little initial copper and another train station that eventually went over to my Seawise Giant oil super tanker fuel power plant, which will be in another tour video on this playlist. Then to the right of that, there is my tower, my primary production area for this, my first ever Satisfactory save, of which I put in about 1.3k hours. 1,300 hours for those who may not like the difficulties of doing those conversions of point whatever to regular hours. And then to the right of the tower is my space elevator, and just a little bit to the right of that you can see a small little production area with my first ever concrete setup. And then below and to the right, just a little bit from the tower, is my first ever coal power plant, where I maxed out that small little pond there for 21 coal gens. And then over on the right side, there is a small platform where I conducted experimentation with production lines. Just found it was really handy to have a separate area from my main production area to just fiddle around with stuff. And then on the right is my first ever bridge that goes over to my first ever oil plant on the Gold Coast, which will also be in another video on this playlist for my video tours. So, let's get started. And then I just need to make sure that my pack mode here is set correctly. Alright, and here we are. Coming up on the left here, right there, is my first ever long distance rail line. First ever rail line in general, actually. That goes over to the Dune Desert that I turned into Egypt via a painstaking Egyptification process for Egypt 0.1, which will also be in another video on this playlist. So, I came in here, I took a look around, and I decided that I liked the idea of utilizing a bit of landscape right around my initial area, and then I set up a initial iron production here via some nothing fancy, just a basic setup here, bringing the iron ore up to this platform to smelt, and then bringing the iron ingots over here to where I'm doing screws right there, rods right there, and then if I can fit in this little tiny thing. As I said, I enjoy the challenge of being compact, but it brings with it challenges. So, and then there are my iron plates. So, like I said, I decided to go ahead and tackle the challenge of trying to see what I could do to kind of implement the landscape a little bit. As you can see, my belt management and transition area here is bumped up against the small little rock face there, and then over here is my steel ingot production area that is pretty much level with my second floor of my tower, which is coming up into the landscape over here, where I have a nice little thoroughput for vehicles, etc. Over here is my initial copper, where I'm doing wire and copper sheets. And then over here is my first ever aluminum production plant, doing few hundred aluminum sheets a minute and a few hundred aluminum casings a minute. Currently shut down because when I finished up the save and moved on to my first ever new save, I pretty much just shut everything down and wasn't really concerned with a whole lot of actual production and such anymore, because I will not be spending much time on this save in the future. And so let's go over to my what I call my essential hub area, my essentials hub area. Here I have my hub, awesome shop, equipment workshop, a MAM, some storage, unfortunately not automated and not supplied by belts at all. However, we're going to fix that and do regular central storage on my first new save ever. And if you like what you see so far, then, and you want to see all this in action and in development, you can watch me on twitch.tv/CorranHorn_R9. That's spelled CorranHorn_R9 if you want to go check me out on Twitch and see me putting all this together in real time. So as with the Essentials Hub, I've got my primary Explorer, my primary truck, first ever Explorer and first ever truck, as this is my first ever save. And then to give the craft bench a nice big old fat middle finger, because fuck the craft bench. Why use the craft bench when you can use these awesome machines right here that Fixit has supplied for us, care of Coffee Stain Studios. So this is my automated crafting area where I am producing, well, right here I'm producing Noblesse. That constructor is just a generic constructor to do whatever I need it to do at the time. And then right here is another assembler to make sure that I have the ability to easily just throw stuff into it and get to work. And then over here I've got a refinery just for reference, not using it for anything. And then here is two manufacturers for rifle cartridges and beacons, as I love my weapons. Love my weaponry. And then I've got packaged fuel over here, bringing fuel over from my first ever oil plant over on the Gold Coast, as well as canisters for my personal fuel use. And then a sink to dump items in via these containers, and also be able to monitor my coupon production. So let's go to the bottom of the tower here, where my first ever semi-central storage facility was located. Over here on the left I have my first chunk of reinforced iron plates for belt materials. This is rod storage, screw storage, iron plate storage, reinforced iron plate storage, and concrete storage. And then as I wasn't really sure what to do, I decided to just throw out the outputs for those same items so that I didn't have to really think too hard about how everything was set up. And then I've also got a ladder here, a nice long stackable conveyor pole, or tall stackable conveyor pole is there, to get up and down with. And as I'm in pack fly mode right now, it's a little shaky whenever I try to grab on. So with my second floor, I decided to make that my steel floor. So these constructors here are bringing in the steel ingots from outside there, and then bottom row is all steel beam constructors in the top row is all steel pipe constructors, bringing those over into storage and outputs for production. Over here is advanced steel with my first ever encased industrial beam production right here, where I am producing belt materials as well as some E-beams for heavy modular frames up higher. Here I've got a little bit of some hypertubes that are going up to other floors and other areas for personal transportation. Here is my frame floor. Over here is where I am doing my regular modular frames, bringing in supplies from this side. The basic concept of my tower here is that, let's go to the top here to give an example of that. I think I'll actually just go out this way, as it might be faster. And got the fun old autosave. It's always great to just sit here and observe your factory, helpless to do anything, as you wait for the good old autosave to save you from the day when you die and you don't want to lose your progress. So the basic idea here is that this side of every floor is the input, and then the other side here, as we move on over to the front, is the outputs for each floor. Basically, not always exactly how I do it, but because, as I said, this is my first ever save, so I had a lot of learning to do. Then over here, I've got my first ever heavy modular frame manufacturer. So let's go move on up here. And up here is my first ever stator floor. The nice, easy, copyable format here. Nothing too fancy. Just wanted to get them up and running because I wanted to learn the game as quickly as possible, but also deliberately as possible, so that I could move on to my next save where I could make everything very well organized, neat and tidy, and very well and efficiently managed. Here is my first ever rotor floor. I decided to group the stators and rotors together so that they would be easy to compile in for the outputs. Here is my wire floor, where I'm bringing in the Caterium ingots from over here, putting them into the constructors, going into storage, as well as outputs. Oh, then over here is my first cable production area, into storage again, and then into outputs, where they are, one of which is immediately taken over to crystal oscillator production here. And then we're going to go up to the next floor, where I'm taking the oscillators in with circuit boards for crystal computers, and then one manufacturer triple overclocked at 250% for standard base recipe computers into storage and then to outputs. I am a firm believer in lots and lots of redundancy and backup storage, so that if I ever shut down a production line, then I have storage to keep feeding all the other production lines so production can continue, because production must go on. As well as just general backup, and provides, if I'm looking for some computers for some reason and I happen to be right here close by, I can just grab some and move on. And then gonna go up to the next floor here. This is one of my better, well laid out production floors so far, as not a whole lot of clipping and got a lot more good organization here, bringing in rotors there, bringing in stators there into some more storage, as I like to get that comprehensive backup and storage redundancy in place. Producing motors right here into storage again, and then into outputs. And then this is all of the floors that didn't end up deciding to use, but just wanted to go ahead and just show people what the floors looked like when they were empty. And then also wanted to go up to the top here just to show some perspective of the height of my tower compared to the space elevator. And for nuts and shits and giggles, I decided to put a radar tower up here on top. So there you have it, folks. This is my first tower in Satisfactory ever. Got my coal plant over there, like a small platform over there for experimenting with production lines. Got my first ever concrete down there using base concrete. Last time ever using the base recipe, as the base recipe is crap compared to a wet concrete refinery production line. There I decided to up my wire production, so that's a small wire platform. This is, again, my copper area here, as well as another train station that goes over to the Seawise Giant oil super tanker fuel power plant. And then that rail goes over to Egypt 0.1, which you can see a little bit of there in the distance. That rail goes over using the bridge that goes to my first ever oil plant. And because I already had a bridge in place there, and there's a nice pier bauxite node over there, decided to go ahead and utilize it for my first ever aluminum setup. So, if you like this video, then please take a moment to go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel, as well as give it a like. Give me a comments about any feedback you might have, any suggestions for improvement, any suggestions for stuff that I did well that I should keep on doing, as this is my first ever YouTube video in any way, shape, or form. And one more look around the area here where my first ever tower was built before I sign off. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned to this playlist for a tour of my first ever oil plant over on the Gold Coast, which you can see right there on the left. Thanks for watching. Best wishes on everyone's day.